Couple attempts. Yeah, this is still gonna end up a broken video. And if someone calls me, it's gonna end up more broken because I don't have the software to put things together because I don't have the money to buy it. And yes, it costs money. Unless I want a watermark at the bottom of my screen. Because, and also to sign like some weird thing, basically so that they can, if the whimsy strikes them, claim copyright over my video, probably after I'm dead. I'm not going to agree to that. No. So, yeah, I'm not using that shit. Because I actually read the TOS, and some of the stuff that is quote-unquote free is kind of like, give me your soul in exchange. So, not doing that. I mean, like, not literally give me your soul, just... Someone actually did that to see if people were reading the TOS. And they got quote-unquote surprising results. People weren't reading the TOS. That's not really surprising, though. So, yeah. I am working on the ears for this feline. These cat ears. Cat ears. Somebody texting me. No. No? Why? Why? Okay, so... I guess now I'm waiting for the landlord to come get rent. Also, the notice, which he's not going to be happy whenever he reads, because it's notarized, dated. For some reason, whenever it's in text, like, he's only started to realize that text can be used as evidence in court. So... So, and that was only because I basically told him that, like, all the times that we've told him in text that things were broken, you can't just, it's not, also that he's recorded every time that he's ever been here, so there's that. It's Arizona, so I've never had to tell him. I basically just did it because I was hoping that, like, our last amount of time here would just run more smoothly if he knew, because like there's not enough time for him to like retaliate left and right for it. So yeah, let's see. We'll just use that little bit of green in the middle to kind of give it a little bit of stiffness, and then I'll just do more green. That way it'll look like it's kind of more on the inside and won't come off like it's on the wrong side of the damn ear. Meow. No. Okay. Pausing. So in all the packing chaos, I cannot get to my sewing machine. This is gonna be fun. Not really. So I was kind of hoping that I would have like less round corners that I'm gonna end up with now. It's details that nobody else is probably gonna care about. Chris won't care about, but I care about. So yeah. That's sewing machine needles. I'm so used to going in there, I went in there. So I pulled over what I can still get to, because I keep it out, because sometimes I have to fix people's clothes. Chris and Jean are pretty hard clothes. Sometimes you have to pull some tricks to make it so that it doesn't look like it's been fixed. And other things, you know, there's nothing for it. It's gonna look like it's been fixed no matter what you do, because it's just that kind of tear. Some things you can do and not have seen, some things you can't. So let's see, I've got my reupholstering needles. I need to get more sewing needles. Which one has the top thread? Oh, it's this one, isn't it? Of course it is. I've used this for pillows. It's actually really useful. Just, I used it for this. It's a pillow stuffed with old socks. So I think I'm just gonna use this because it's the first one on top, and I don't really feel like dealing with it. Don't do this. So that's just to kind of feel out where the end is. In reality, I need to make a couple stitches. This is the easiest stitch to use for this. And then we lock it. It's one of the first things I learned how to do. So I used to hand sew stuff whenever I was a kid, before somebody taught me how to use a machine. Doesn't mean I like it or that I have the neatest hand stitches. So sometimes my hand stitching leaves something to be desired, but that's a skill people pour lifetimes into, to make it the neatest thing ever. So half of hand stitching is actually hiding how messy it is. Like, if it's inconsistent and kind of just drawing attention to other stuff and covering it up, which is actually where you get things like lace and stuff, and where it's placed on clothes. Because back in the day, you know, you had no time for that shit. Like, people made their own clothes. Not everybody had skills for it to be neat, so you made it as neat as possible. You know, I actually like the curved needles anyway, even whenever it's not for upholstering. I know it's weird, but it's really comfortable to hold them. And they're kind of easier to push through, too. Like, and if I need to, I'm not like, I can just, it's just a different movement. I don't need to deal with some of the bullshit. But also, like, if you're dealing with really delicate material, you don't want to deal with this, because this is not, this is a little thick as far as needles go, but I'm working with felt, so I'm not worried about it. But, like, the needle thickness does matter. There are some pretty, very fine materials. But this is a Halloween costume. And this is an ear. Hi, Lucky. I have been acknowledged. He's giving me his look like, you have acknowledged me. Pet me. It is a Jedi mind trick. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I got you in that spot, didn't I? That spot. That spot right there? Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, I need to sew now. So, and then I actually saw a post earlier. Someone, that reminds me. I saw a post earlier because somebody was, I guess they were just posting about cats and their cats, and the cat got into, like, fresh bread, and I guess there were some muffins that they picked up that the cats got into. Not our cats, just a post somewhere on the internet. And I was kind of laughing at it, because I was like, oh god, this is why I lock up the goldfish. Because Lucky loves them. And if he can get a hold of it, and it's treats. That's his one thing with stuff like that. You can't leave treats where he can possibly like get to the packaging, because he will tear that shit up. He will tear that shit up and he will get to it. So, he likes goldfish crackers. Specifically, he likes flavor blasted goldfish. They have to be flavor blasted, otherwise, you know. And I'm like, well, you can only have a couple because you have dietary problems. And this actually came after that. So I'm like, well, you're like on special food, cat. Yeah, we're still keeping him up with that, by the way. Ever since the incident, whenever he had to have that surgery, and we basically poured like our entire savings into it to save his life. And then we spent the next year paying off the rest. Yeah. We had like no savings that entire year, because everything that we would have saved was going into, hell, even some stuff we wouldn't have saved. We made some sacrifices that year. But, you know, and that was just, that was our original moving fund. Like, we were planning to move out of state for the longest time, and the first time we got railroaded by that. Like, we were gonna move, I was gonna, you know, push through a legal divorce in courts with my ex-husband, and then, you know, we were gonna, you know, just blow this popsicle joint. And, it didn't happen. Instead, we had to make a choice: your cat, or, you know, your move and your closure. And it ended up being the cat. So, I love my cat more than I hate my ex-husband. Go figure. And I only hate my ex-husband because of the crap that he did, just to be honestly clear. Why did this tangle and I can't get it untangled? Why? Why do these things happen? And my eyes have gotten to the point where even up close it's starting to get blurry. This has happened to me before growing up. They ended up having to give me bifocals, and I just kept on telling them that the glasses were making my eyes worse, and they didn't listen. Now they're gonna make them worse too, because, like, yeah, I don't know how to say this, but these prescriptions are old. Way old, and my eyes actually deteriorate faster than other people's, especially with glasses. So, like, magnifying all that light going into my retinas is not doing me good. And I couldn't afford the special lenses, and insurance wasn't covering my glasses, and they weren't going to cover, you know, tinted lenses. They weren't even going to cover regular lenses, let alone my glasses, let alone, like, tinted lenses. So, like, I got the cheapest frames that I could get, and they literally, like, deteriorated over time to the point where they just fell apart. And I had 2 pairs, so I've had them long enough both pairs have fallen apart in the same way. Damn it. There's no helping this. So, I'm gonna top it off. Sometimes shit happens. Naturally, it has gone from 100% to 15. And now it is yelling at me. Bish, 15%. Charge me. Plug me in. Nah, it's not saying that. It's just flashing me a warning. I wouldn't want it to talk something like that either. Could you imagine if Munchkin just started talking to me like that? No. fun to joke about it whenever you're like by yourself and shit, but nobody actually likes to be talked to like that. Alright, I've tied that off, cut off the extra stuff. We'll just work with what isn't tangled. I have salvaged so that I don't have to deal with it. So I'm actually almost done. Whenever you sew things like this, most of the time you want to do it so that it'll kind of end up like something like this. Like, I contemplated having this on the inside, then I was like, nah, I'll probably just put another piece of green over it if I need to. But you stitch on the inside, like, that's why your stitches are on the inside. And then certain stitches are better for certain materials, and some materials it literally doesn't matter. And then by certain stitches I mean like there's different ways. Like I just did a completely different stitch right there than I did on the other side. And I was more or less just doing that because that stitch, changing the stitch sometimes makes it a little more secure, depending on what stitches we're talking about. That particular stitch, though, sometimes will kind of help lock it in, almost. And then you go back over something, and you try to go through the same holes. Then you want to keep an eye on both sides, because sometimes your edges can come apart. You don't want that. Also, be careful, because you can accidentally stab yourself. And the ways to accidentally stab yourself change with the shape of the needle. Why am I taking off my glasses to look? Oh yes, because it's light, it's bright. I have nothing in my stomach. That is literally the only reason why I can talk like this right now, because I've literally just divested and lost everything that has been on my stomach today. I can't even, just, no. So I am sick. And you want to know, like, the worst part? Like, and then, like, I ended up with, like, a urinary tract so bad that it was, like, I was basically, like, it was so bad that I was like, wow, there is that blood in my urine? Because, like, it looks different sometimes versus the rest of it. And right now the other stuff is clear. And I know that that isn't a yeast infection. It's just the random stuff that I get because of my hormones being completely fucked up by the Hashimoto's. So my hormones are completely fucked up, and it causes no end of problems in female areas. So yeah, like at this point I'm literally sleeping with a towel between my legs just in case. Like, it's either a pad or a towel. I can't just because it's just gross to me. Like, even though I know that it's like not a yeast infection because it doesn't really smell like one, and yes, they have a smell, and I know my body well enough. Yeah, I get urinary tract infections very easily though. Like, I can't even go in a pool without getting them, so it's not like it's monumental. Let's finish locking this in. And I know it's not necessary, but for some reason I've just always had the habit of doubling my lock-in at the end and at the beginning of every like line of stitching whenever I do stuff like that.